The words came out barely as a whisper, but they echoed through the entire backstage area like thunder. "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" Maya Rodriguez stood frozen, clutching her battered guitar case against her chest. Her feet were bare, covered in dirt and small cuts. The oversized donated jacket hung off her thin shoulders, and her dark curly hair was a tangled mess. At just 9 years old, she already knew what it meant to be invisible, to be pushed aside, to have doors slammed in her face. But right now, all she could think about was the gnawing hunger in her stomach, a hunger that had been her constant companion for the past 3 days. The security guard stared at her, disgusted. "Kid, this isn't a soup kitchen. This is America's Voice, the biggest talent competition in the country. You can't just walk in here begging for food." Maya's dark eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. She'd learned long ago that crying didn't help. "I'm not begging, sir. I can sing. Really well. I haven't eaten in a while, and I thought maybe." "Get out before I call the cops," the guard interrupted, reaching for his radio. That's when a voice cut through the tension, smooth, commanding, and carrying the weight of authority. "Wait." Everyone turned. A tall man in an expensive navy suit walked toward them, his shoes clicking against the polished floor. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled, and his smile was the kind that appeared in magazine ads. This was Richard Sterling, creator and executive producer of America's Voice. The security guard immediately straightened. "Mr. Sterling, I was just..." Richard raised a hand, silencing him. His eyes studied Maya with an unreadable expression. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Maya," she whispered. "And you want to sing, Maya?" She nodded, hope flickering in her eyes. "Yes, sir. I sing on the subway sometimes. People say I'm good. I'm really hungry, and I thought if I could sing here, maybe." Richard's smile widened, but there was something cold behind it. Something calculating. "You know what? I think we can help each other out." 6 months earlier, Maya had a home once. A real home with a pink bedroom, stuffed animals, and a mother who tucked her in every night singing lullabies. But that was before the accident. Before the social services. Before the foster homes that didn't work out. The last family had been the worst. They'd taken her in for the monthly check, not because they cared. When she couldn't stop crying at night, missing her mother, haunted by nightmares, they'd called her too broken to fix, and sent her back. After that, Maya ran. At 8 years old, she decided the streets were safer than another foster home where she didn't belong. She survived by singing. Her mother had taught her, a beautiful woman with the same dark curls and honey-brown skin, who'd sung in church every Sunday. Music was the only thing Maya had left of her. On the subway platforms of New York City, she'd open her guitar case, found abandoned in a dumpster, and sing the songs her mother taught her. Most people walked by without looking. Some dropped quarters. A few stopped to listen. That's how she met Tommy. Tommy was 12, a street kid who'd been surviving on his own for 3 years. He ran a small shoe shine operation near Grand Central Station, but his real talent was survival. He taught Maya the unwritten rules of street life, where to sleep safely, which cops to avoid, how to spot danger. "You got a gift, Maya," he'd tell her, polishing a businessman's shoes while she sang nearby. "A real gift. Don't waste it." One December afternoon, everything changed. Maya was singing at her usual spot when a woman stopped. Not just any woman, an elegant black woman in a designer coat, with kind eyes and the posture of someone used to being on stage. "Sweetheart," the woman said softly, crouching down to Maya's level. "That voice, where did you learn to sing like that?" Maya shrugged, shy. "My mama taught me. Before she..." She couldn't finish. The woman's eyes filled with understanding. "What's your name?" "Maya." "I'm Dr. Jennifer Hayes," the woman said gently. "I'm a vocal coach, and I work with a talent show called America's Voice. Have you heard of it?" Maya shook her head. Dr. Hayes pulled out a business card. "It's a competition for young singers. The winner gets a recording contract, $100,000, and a chance to perform all over the country." She paused. "Maya, you have something special. Something rare. If you came to the auditions..." "I can't," Maya interrupted, looking down at her dirty clothes, her bare feet. Why not? Because I'm nobody. I don't have parents to take me. I don't have nice clothes or... Stop. Dr. Hayes's voice was firm but gentle. She reached into her purse and pulled out several $20 bills. Take this. Buy yourself some food, some shoes. The auditions are next month at the Henderson Theater downtown. Here's my card. When you get there, you ask for me. Understand? Maya stared at the money in disbelief. But why? Dr. Hayes smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. Because a long time ago, someone gave me a chance when I had nothing. And because... She hesitated, because you remind me of someone very precious that I lost. Before Maya could ask what she meant, Dr. Hayes stood, squeezed her shoulder gently, and walked away. That night, Maya showed Tommy the card and told him everything. This is it. Tommy exclaimed, his eyes bright. This is your shot. I don't know, Maya said, doubt creeping in. What if they laugh at me? What if... Maya. Tommy grabbed her shoulders. I shine shoes. That's my talent, and I'm damn good at it. But you? You have something that could change your entire life. Don't throw it away because you're scared. She thought about it for weeks. Used some of Dr. Hayes's money for food, saved the rest. Tommy helped her practice every day, making her sing while he timed her, giving feedback like he'd seen judges do on TV. But on the morning of the auditions, Maya almost didn't go. She stood outside the Henderson Theater, watching families arrive, kids in designer clothes with professional hair and makeup, parents carrying expensive equipment, vocal coaches running last-minute rehearsals. Then she looked down at herself. The best she could do was a thrift store dress that was too big, sneakers that didn't match, and hair she tried to comb with her fingers. I don't belong here, she whispered. But Tommy's voice echoed in her head, don't throw it away because you're scared. And deeper, older, her mother's voice, sing, baby. When you sing, you're never alone. Maya took a deep breath, clutched her broken guitar case, and walked through those doors. She made it past the initial screenings. Her voice was undeniable. The producers' eyes lit up when they heard her sing. Not because of her talent alone, but because of her story. Homeless kid with golden voice? That was ratings gold. That's how she ended up here, weeks later, in the backstage area of the biggest talent show in America, asking the question that would change everything. If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food? And Richard Sterling, with his calculated smile and cold eyes, saw not a hungry child, but an opportunity. Because Richard didn't build his empire on talent alone. He built it on drama, on heartbreak, on moments that made people cry and share and tune in week after week. And what was more dramatic than a starving orphan singing for her supper? Come with me, Maya, he said, putting a hand on her shoulder. Let's talk about how we can help each other. As he led her deeper into the building, away from the security guard, away from the other contestants warming up, Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. Something that had nothing to do with hunger. She didn't know it yet, but she just walked into a trap designed not to lift her up, but to tear her down, on national television, for millions to see. Richard Sterling led Maya through corridors that seemed to gleam with wealth. Polished floors, walls covered in gold and platinum records, photographs of past winners frozen in moments of triumph. The little girl stared in wonder, her bare feet making no sound against the expensive marble. Mr. Sterling, she said hesitantly, about the food. I didn't mean to be rude. I just... Don't worry about it, he interrupted, his voice smooth as silk. I understand completely. You're hungry, you're tired, and you've been through hell. Am I right? Maya nodded, surprised he seemed to understand. They entered a large room marked Contestants' Lounge. Inside, long tables were laden with food, sandwiches, fruit, cookies, juice boxes, everything a hungry child could dream of. Maya's eyes widened, and her stomach growled so loudly it echoed. Richard smiled. Go ahead. Eat as much as you want. Maya didn't need to be told twice. She rushed to the table and began eating with the desperate hunger of someone who'd gone days without food. She barely tasted anything, just shoved food into her mouth while tears of relief ran down her cheeks. Richard watched with that same unreadable expression. His assistant, a young woman named Melissa, approached him and whispered, "Sir, are we really going to let her compete like this?" She doesn't even have shoes. Oh, we're definitely letting her compete, Richard replied quietly. In fact, I want her exactly as she is. Don't touch her appearance. Don't offer her a shower or new clothes. I want America to see her exactly like this. Melissa shifted uncomfortably. But sir. I know what I'm doing, Richard said sharply. Then his expression softened into that camera-ready smile. Trust me. This is going to be the most talked-about episode in the show's history. What Maya didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that Richard Sterling had built his empire on exploitation. Every season, he found someone vulnerable, someone with a heartbreaking story, and he used them. Not to help them, but to boost ratings. The more they cried on camera, the more money he made. After Maya had eaten enough to ease the worst of her hunger, Richard sat down beside her. So, Maya. Tell me your story. Where are your parents? Maya looked down. My mama died 2 years ago. Car accident. I don't know who my dad is, she never talked about him. And you've been on the streets this whole time? No, sir. Social services put me in foster homes, but... She trailed off. But what? They didn't want me, she whispered. They said I was too much trouble. That I cried too much. That I was broken. Perfect, Richard thought, keeping his expression sympathetic. Absolutely perfect. Well, Maya, he said aloud, I want you to know that here, you're not broken. Here you have a chance to show the world what you can do. He paused for effect. But I need to be honest with you. The competition is tough. The other kids here, they've had professional training, expensive coaches, designer outfits. You're going to be at a disadvantage. Maya's hope began to deflate. But, Richard continued, if you're brave enough, strong enough, to get up on that stage exactly as you are and sing your heart out, you'll show everyone that talent isn't about money or fancy clothes. It's about heart. Can you do that? Maya nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. I'll do my best. Good girl. Richard stood. Now, I'm going to take you to meet the other contestants. They're all staying in our dormitory upstairs until the show begins tomorrow. You'll have a bed, more food, and a chance to rest. How does that sound? Really? Maya's face lit up with genuine joy. Really? Come on. As they rode the elevator up, Richard texted his assistant, make sure Maya rooms with the Morrison twins and their group. Let's see what happens. Melissa read the text and felt sick. The Morrison twins, Brittany and Tiffany, were 14-year-old influencers with millions of followers. Beautiful, talented, and absolutely vicious to anyone they perceived as beneath them. Richard knew exactly what would happen if he put Maya in their room. The elevator doors opened to reveal a luxurious dormitory, more like a 5-star hotel than a simple bedroom. Plush beds with silk sheets, a mounted TV, expensive furnishings. And in the center of it all, a group of girls were doing their makeup, their designer clothes spread across the beds. They all turned when Maya walked in. The silence was immediate and devastating. Brittany Morrison, with her perfectly straightened blonde hair and designer pajamas, looked Maya up and down with undisguised disgust. Mr. Sterling? I think someone from housekeeping wandered into our room by mistake. The other girls giggled. Richard's smile never wavered. Girls, this is Maya. She's competing tomorrow, and she'll be staying with you tonight. You're joking, Tiffany said flatly, holding her nose. She smells like... I don't even want to know. Now girls, Richard said with fake disapproval, we treat everyone with respect here. But the gleam in his eye told a different story. Maya's had a hard life, but she's earned her place here just like you have. I expect you to make her feel welcome. He turned to Maya, whose face had gone pale. Maya, the bathroom is through that door if you want to clean up. There are fresh towels and toiletries. Girls, I'll see you all tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp. Good night. The moment Richard left, the atmosphere in the room turned arctic. Maya stood frozen, clutching her guitar case, as 8 pairs of eyes stared at her with varying degrees of contempt and amusement. Brittany was the first to speak. Okay, let's get some rules straight. You don't touch any of our stuff. You don't use our makeup or our hair products. You definitely don't wear any of our clothes. And you sleep on the floor in the corner. We don't want whatever diseases you have, contaminating our beds. I don't have diseases, Maya said quietly. Sure you don't, Tiffany sneered. Look, homeless girl, we don't know why Richard let you in here, but you don't belong. Tomorrow when you get on that stage and embarrass yourself in front of millions of people, remember that we tried to tell you. Another girl, a redhead named Chelsea, added with false sweetness, maybe if you sing really, really well, they'll give you enough money for a bath. God knows you need it. The room erupted in cruel laughter. Maya felt her eyes burning with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She'd cried enough in her life. Instead, she walked quietly to the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the cold tile floor. Through the door, she could hear them talking about her, laughing, making jokes about her appearance, her smell, her very existence. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, tangled hair, dirty face, eyes that had seen too much for 9 years old. Maybe they're right, she whispered. Maybe I don't belong here. Then she remembered Dr. Hayes's kind eyes, Tommy's encouragement, her mother's lullabies. No, she said more firmly. I do belong. My voice belongs. Tomorrow I'll show them. She spent the next hour in the shower, scrubbing away days of street dirt, carefully washing her hair with the luxury products she found. She didn't have clean clothes to change into, so she put her old ones back on, but at least she was clean. When she emerged, the girls barely glanced at her. Brittany had commandeered everyone's attention with her phone, showing them her latest TikTok that had gotten 2 million likes. By the way, Brittany said without looking up, we already took all the beds. There's a spot in the corner by the closet. Try not to cry too loud, some of us need our beauty sleep for tomorrow. Maya swallowed her hurt, spread her jacket on the floor in the corner they'd indicated, and lay down, using her guitar case as a pillow. As the lights went out and the other girls whispered and giggled, Maya stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, everything would change. For better or worse, she didn't know. But she would sing. And when she did, the whole world would hear her. Maya barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the girls' laughter echoing in her head. When she finally drifted off, she dreamed of her mother, warm arms, soft singing, the smell of her perfume. She woke up reaching for something that wasn't there. At 6 a.m., the dormitory exploded with activity. Hair straighteners, makeup brushes, clothing racks being wheeled in by assistants. Professional stylists arrived to help the girls prepare. It was like watching a Broadway production come together. Maya sat in her corner, watching. Nobody offered to help her. Nobody even acknowledged her existence. Breakfast is here, someone called from the hallway. The girls rushed out, leaving Maya alone. She waited a few minutes, then followed. In the dining hall, tables were laden with bagels, fruit, yogurt parfaits, and hot breakfast items. The other contestants, boys and girls ranging from 8 to 16, chatted excitedly, surrounded by parents, coaches, and supporters. Maya took a tray and filled it quietly, finding an empty table in the corner. As she ate, she observed everything. This was a different world, one she'd never belonged to. Mind if I sit? Maya looked up. A boy about her age, with brown skin and warm eyes, stood holding his tray. He wore simple clothes, not designer, but clean and neat. It's empty, Maya said cautiously. He sat down and extended his hand. I'm Marcus. I saw you come in yesterday. She shook his hand hesitantly. Maya. Your first time competing? She nodded. You. Third time. I've never made it past the first round, but my grandma says I have to keep trying. He smiled. She says our voices are gifts from God, and we have to share them. For the first time since arriving, Maya felt something loosen in her chest. Your grandma sounds nice. She is. She raised me when my parents couldn't. He paused. Where's your family? I don't have any. Marcus didn't pry, just nodded respectfully. Well, today you've got me cheering for you. What are you singing? Before Maya could answer, Brittany's voice cut through the dining hall. Oh look, the homeless girl found someone desperate enough to sit with her. The room went quiet. Heads turned. Marcus's jaw tightened, but Maya put a hand on his arm. It's okay, she whispered. It's not okay, Marcus said quietly. but I respect you not wanting drama before your performance. They finished breakfast in silence, but it was a comfortable silence. For a moment, Maya felt less alone. At 8 a.m., all contestants were called to the main auditorium for orientation. The stage was massive, bigger than anything Maya had ever seen. Lights hung from the ceiling like stars. 3 judges' chairs sat before the stage, and behind them, seats for a live audience of 500 people. Richard Sterling stood center stage, his presence commanding attention. Good morning, young talents. Today, 12 of you will perform for our judges and our live audience. Only 6 will advance to the next round. He paused for dramatic effect. Remember, we're not just looking for good singers. We're looking for stars. People who can move an audience, tell a story, make us feel something. His eyes found Maya in the crowd and held for just a moment. Now, let's meet our judges. First, the legendary music producer Marcus Johnson, who's worked with Beyoncé, Alicia Keys, and John Legend. A tall black man in an expensive suit waved from his chair. Second, viral sensation and pop star Riley Chun, who went from YouTube covers to platinum records in 1 year. A young Asian woman with purple hair grinned and threw peace signs. And finally, our head judge and vocal coach extraordinaire, Dr. Jennifer Hayes. Maya's heart stopped. The kind woman from the subway walked onto the stage, elegant and poised. Their eyes met, and Dr. Hayes' expression shifted. Surprise, concern, and something else Maya couldn't identify. Dr. Hayes has the final say in who advances, Richard continued. Her yes can overrule any no from the other judges. After orientation, contestants drew numbers to determine performance order. Maya drew number 11, second to last. The day dragged on. One by one, contestants performed. Some were incredible, hitting notes that seemed impossible, moving the judges to tears. Others were good but forgettable. One girl forgot her lyrics and ran off stage crying. Maya watched from the wings, her stomach churning. Marcus performed 7th, a beautiful rendition of Stand By Me that earned him applause and positive feedback. He was through to the next round. Brittany and Tiffany performed a synchronized duet that was technically perfect but somehow emotionally empty. Still, the audience loved it, and 2 judges said yes. Finally, after what felt like hours, Maya heard, "Contestant number 11, Maya Rodriguez, please take the stage." Her legs felt like water. She picked up her guitar case, the broken taped-together case she'd found in a dumpster, and walked toward the stage entrance. That's when she heard whispering behind her. Brittany and Tiffany stood with a group of girls, all of them smiling cruel smiles. And in the shadows behind them, barely visible, was Richard Sterling, speaking quietly into a radio. Maya's instincts screamed danger, but she had no choice. She walked onto that stage. The lights were blinding. The audience was a dark mass of shapes. The judges sat in silhouette, backlit and unreadable. "Hello," she said into the microphone, her voice small. "My name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm 9 years old." "And where are you from, Maya?" Richard's voice came from somewhere in the darkness. "New York City, sir." "Do you have family here supporting you today?" Maya's throat tightened. "No, sir. I don't have any family." The audience murmured sympathetically. "I see. Well, Maya, what are you going to sing for us?" "Blackbird by the Beatles, sir. My mama used to sing it to me." "How beautiful. Whenever you're ready." Maya bent down to open her guitar case. Her fingers fumbled with the broken latch. Finally, it popped open. She reached for her guitar, and that's when she saw it. The strings had been cut. All 6 of them, severed cleanly, hanging loose like broken promises. Maya's breath caught. Her hands began to shake. From the wings, she heard muffled giggling. "Is something wrong?" Richard asked, his voice dripping with false concern. Maya stared at her ruined guitar. It was the only thing she owned in the world. The only connection to the music her mother had taught her. And someone had destroyed it. She looked up at the judges. Dr. Hayes was leaning forward, concern clear on her face. The other judges looked confused. The audience waited. Maya's vision blurred with tears. Her chest felt tight. Every instinct told her to run, to disappear, to go back to the streets where at least the cruelty was honest. But then she heard it, so faint she almost missed it, Tommy's voice from memory, "Don't throw it away because you're scared." And deeper still, her mother's voice, "When you sing, you're never alone." Maya closed the guitar case gently, like closing a coffin. She stood up straight, walked to the microphone, and said in a voice that barely shook, "I don't need the guitar. I'll sing it anyway." The audience stirred. The judges exchanged glances. And Richard Sterling, hidden in the control booth, smiled a smile that would have chilled blood. He pressed a button on his console and spoke into his radio. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Get ready with the failsafe. On my signal." Maya closed her eyes, took a breath, and began to sing. The first note that came from Maya's mouth silenced the entire auditorium. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Her voice was pure, clear, and carried a weight that shouldn't have been possible from someone so small. It wasn't just singing, it was survival transformed into sound, pain transmuted into beauty. "Take these broken wings and learn to fly." The audience leaned forward. Even the judges, who'd heard thousands of performances, looked transfixed. Dr. Hayes had tears streaming down her face. "All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise." Maya sang with her eyes closed, completely unaware of the effect she was having. She sang for her mother. She sang for Tommy. She sang for every night she'd spent cold and hungry and afraid. She sang because it was the only thing no one could take from her. As she neared the final verse, something strange happened. Her voice seemed to fill every corner of the massive auditorium, resonating in a way that made people's skin prickle with goosebumps. In the control booth, Richard watched his monitors. The audience was captivated. This wasn't the plan. This wasn't supposed to happen. The girl was supposed to fail, to break down, to give him his dramatic moment. He pressed his radio button. "Now. Do it now." In the lighting booth high above the stage, a technician, one of Richard's loyal employees who'd been with him for years, hesitated. He looked at the young girl on stage, singing her heart out, and felt something he hadn't felt in years: shame. "Sir," he whispered into his radio, "I don't think. Do it now or you're fired." The technician's hand trembled as he reached for the control panel. With a flick of several switches, he killed the main stage lights. Maya's voice faltered as the stage plunged into darkness. The audience gasped. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm," Richard's voice came over the PA system, smooth and rehearsed. "We're experiencing a technical difficulty. Please stay seated." In the darkness, Maya stood frozen. She could hear movement, whispers, the rustle of the audience shifting uncomfortably. Then she felt it, a presence behind her. Before she could turn, hands grabbed her shoulders. Not roughly, but firmly. "Keep singing," Dr. Hayes whispered urgently in her ear. "No matter what happens, keep singing." "But I can't see." "You don't need to see. Just sing. Trust me." The hands released her, and Maya heard Dr. Hayes's footsteps retreating. Seconds later, a single spotlight flickered on, not the bright stage lights, but a soft warm glow that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. And Maya, standing in that pool of light on the dark stage, understood. This was a test. Maybe not one she'd expected, but everything in her life had been a test. She opened her mouth and kept singing. "Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of the dark black night." But this time, something changed. As if pulled by some invisible force, Dr. Hayes stepped into the light beside Maya. And then, to everyone's shock, she began to sing harmony. Their voices intertwined, one young and pure, one mature and trained, creating something that transcended performance. It was communion. It was healing. It was magic. The audience erupted. People jumped to their feet, some crying, others filming with their phones. The other two judges stood, applauding. In the lighting booth, the technician, who'd been prepared to follow Richard's next instruction to cut the sound, instead brought up all the stage lights in a brilliant cascade. The song ended. Maya and Dr. Hayes stood together in the spotlight, both with tears on their faces. The applause was deafening. Richard Sterling, watching from the control booth, felt something he rarely experienced: the loss of control. His carefully orchestrated humiliation had transformed into triumph. But years of experience told him he could still salvage this. He could still use it. He walked onto the stage, microphone in hand, his camera-ready smile firmly in place. "Ladies and gentlemen, wasn't that something?" The applause continued. "Maya Rodriguez, everyone." He waited for the noise to die down, then turned to the judges. "Well, I think we know what the decision will be, but let's make it official. Marcus Johnson, what do you say?" The producer wiped his eyes. "That was the most authentic, powerful performance I've seen in 20 years of doing this. You have a gift, young lady. It's a yes from me." Riley Chen nodded enthusiastically. "I got chills. Like, actual chills. I don't know what you've been through in your life, but you turned it into art. Absolutely yes." All eyes turned to Dr. Hayes. Her face was unreadable, tears still wet on her cheeks. "Dr. Hayes?" Richard prompted, his smile tightening slightly. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped forward and looked directly at Maya. "Sweetheart, before I give my decision, I need to ask you something. Where did you learn that song? Who taught it to you?" Maya's brow furrowed. "My mama, ma'am. She used to sing it to me every night. She said it was about being broken but learning to fly anyway." Dr. Hayes's hand went to her mouth. "What was your mother's name?" "Isabella Rodriguez, ma'am." "Why?" The auditorium fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Dr. Hayes turned to the audience, her voice shaking. 7 years ago, my daughter was taken from me. She was 2 years old, at a playground in Brooklyn. I turned my back for 10 seconds, just 10 seconds, and she was gone." She looked back at Maya. "I spent years searching. Hired private investigators. Never gave up hope. And the song I used to sing to her every single night, the song she would fall asleep to, was Blackbird." Maya's world tilted. I don't understand." Dr. Hayes pulled something from her pocket, a photograph, worn from years of handling. She held it up for Maya to see. It showed a younger version of Dr. Hayes holding a toddler with dark curls and honey-brown skin. Her name was Maya. Maya Hayes. And she had a small birthmark on her left shoulder blade, shaped like a star. Maya's hand unconsciously went to her shoulder, the same spot where she'd always had a mark her foster parents had called distinctive. The same mark social services had documented. The auditorium erupted into chaos. Audience members were crying, standing, shouting. Cameras flashed. The other judges looked stunned. Richard Sterling's face had gone white. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't supposed to happen. Dr. Hayes walked forward, slowly, as if afraid Maya might disappear like smoke. "Baby? Is it you? Is it really you?" Maya couldn't speak. 7 years of memories, fragmented, dreamlike, incomplete, suddenly started clicking into place. A woman's voice singing. Soft hands braiding her hair. The smell of lavender perfume. Not her mother who died, but before the accident. Before everything changed. "I remember," Maya whispered. "I remember the singing. I remember, Mama." The word broke something open in both of them. Dr. Hayes closed the distance and pulled Maya into her arms, and they both collapsed to the stage floor, holding each other and sobbing. The audience was on their feet, crying with them. Even the hardened camera operators had tears streaming down their faces. And Richard Sterling, master manipulator, stood frozen as his carefully controlled show spun completely out of his control. The aftermath happened in a blur. Security had to clear the stage as the audience surged forward, everyone wanting to witness the reunion. Dr. Hayes refused to let go of Maya, holding her daughter as if she might disappear again. Backstage, producers scrambled, trying to figure out how to handle the situation. This wasn't just a talent show anymore, this was a national news story. Richard Sterling retreated to his office, his mind racing. Years of carefully crafted television magic were unraveling because of one unexpected twist. But as he watched the monitors showing the emotional scene on stage, an idea began forming. Maybe he could still use this. Maybe this could be the biggest moment in the show's history. He reached for his phone. Meanwhile, in a small apartment across the city, Tommy watched his tiny television in disbelief. He'd borrowed it from a neighbor specifically to watch Maya perform. When he saw her reunited with her real mother, he broke down crying, overcome with joy for his friend. "You did it, Maya," he whispered. You found your way home. The next hours were a whirlwind. Police were called to verify identities. Social services arrived. Medical personnel came to check Maya's health. Through it all, Dr. Hayes never left her daughter's side, holding her hand like a lifeline. "I need to explain," Dr. Hayes said when they finally had a moment of privacy in a side room. "After you were taken, I fell apart. My marriage ended. I threw myself into my work, teaching voice to try to fill the emptiness. That day I saw you on the subway." She paused, tears flowing. "Something in me recognized you. I didn't know it consciously, but my heart knew." "What happened to me?" Maya asked quietly. "I remember being in the playground, and then, nothing until waking up with different people who said they were my parents." Dr. Hayes's expression darkened. "The police said you were likely taken by a trafficking ring. They probably sold you to people who couldn't have children legally. When those people died in the accident, you entered the foster system under a false identity. They changed your name, your records, everything." "Isabella Rodriguez," Maya whispered. "That was the name they gave me. But your real name is Maya Hayes. And you're my daughter. My baby girl." They held each other and cried. Outside the room, Marcus Johnson, the judge, approached Richard Sterling. "We need to talk about what happened on stage tonight." "It was beautiful, wasn't it?" Richard said smoothly. "A miracle, really." "Cut the act, Richard. I saw you in the control booth. I saw you give the signal to cut the lights. This was supposed to be another one of your setups, wasn't it? You were going to humiliate that little girl on national television." Richard's expression didn't change. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And I'm done." Marcus pulled an envelope from his pocket. "This is my resignation. I've looked the other way too many times while you exploited vulnerable kids for ratings. But not anymore. What happened tonight, Maya finding her mother, that happened despite you, not because of you." Richard took the envelope, his smile finally slipping. "You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was working for you." Marcus turned and walked away. Riley Chen followed suit an hour later. By midnight, Richard Sterling's carefully constructed empire was beginning to crumble. But the story of Maya and Dr. Hayes spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded. Within 24 hours, it was the most talked-about story in America. And then Tommy saw his chance. He'd kept quiet about the cut guitar strings, about the bullying, about everything he'd witnessed. But when reporters started asking questions about Maya's experience, Tommy found himself in front of cameras, telling the truth about what really happened behind the scenes. Brittany and Tiffany's cruel texts were leaked. The lighting technician, overcome with guilt, came forward about Richard's orders. Other former contestants began sharing their own stories of manipulation and exploitation. Within a week, America's Voice was cancelled. Richard Sterling faced multiple lawsuits and criminal investigations. His career was over. But Maya's was just beginning. Dr. Hayes officially regained custody after DNA tests confirmed what their hearts already knew. They moved into a new home together, not a mansion, just a comfortable place filled with music and love. Tommy was invited to live with them. Dr. Hayes welcomed him like a son, understanding that he'd been Maya's family when she had no one else. "You protected her," Dr. Hayes told him through tears. "You were her brother when I couldn't be her mother. You're part of this family now." Marcus, the boy who'd been kind to Maya at breakfast, became a regular visitor. He and Maya became best friends, practicing music together. 6 months later, Maya released her first single, a song she'd written called Broken Wings. It went platinum in 3 weeks. But she didn't do it for fame or money. She did it because singing was how she survived. How she found her way home. On the anniversary of their reunion, Maya and Dr. Hayes performed together at a benefit concert for missing children. Before the song began, Maya stepped to the microphone. "A year ago, I stood in a different auditorium, hungry and scared, asking if anyone would give me food if I sang well." She paused, looking at her mother. "I didn't get a plate of food that day. I got something much better. I got my family back. I got my voice back. I got my life back." The audience rose in a standing ovation. But there are still kids out there who are hungry, who are scared, who are lost. This concert is for them. Because everyone deserves to find their way home. As they sang Blackbird together, mother and daughter, their voices intertwining in perfect harmony, there wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Backstage, Tommy stood with Marcus, both of them beaming with pride. "She made it," Tommy said, wiping his eyes. "We all did," Marcus replied. "We all made it home." And somewhere in America, in a small apartment where a TV played a rerun of that fateful performance, a little girl in a foster home watched Maya's story and whispered to herself, "If she can make it, maybe I can too." Because that's what happened when one voice rose above the darkness, when one girl refused to stay invisible, when one mother never stopped searching. Sometimes, asking for something as simple as food leads to finding something as precious as family. And sometimes, the broken wings learn to fly after all.